Welcome to 5 Good Minutes. You're listening to today's inspirational message, looking at the Messianic Psalms with Kurt Bjorklund.
Psalm 40 and 41 are considered Messianic Psalms because of the way that they are alluded to in the New Testament. And here we come to the allusion that is in Hebrews chapter 10. So Psalm 40 verse 6 says, "Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but my ears you have opened. Burnt offering and sin offerings you did not require. Then I said, here I am, I have come. It is written about me in the scroll. I desire to do your will, my God. Your law is written in my heart. I proclaim your saving acts in the great assembly. I do not seal my lips, Lord, as you know. I do not hide your righteousness in my heart. I speak of your faithfulness and your saving help." And there's a difference in the way that Hebrews 10 quotes this. Here's what Hebrews 10 says, and this is chapter 10 and verse 5. It says, "Sacrifice," and interesting here, it says, "Therefore, when Christ came into the world, he said, 'Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but a body you prepared for me.' So instead of 'you heard me,' it's 'a body you prepared for me.'" Now, some would say that that's quoting from the Septuagint rather than the idea of the Old Testament. That's a little hard to sustain. And then he says, "With burnt offerings and sin offerings you were not pleased. Then I said, here I am. It is written about me in the scroll. I have come to do your will, my God." So Jesus takes the words of David and says, I am the fulfillment of this. I am the ultimate fulfillment of this. And sometimes what people will do with this text in Psalm is they'll say, well, sacrifice and offering aren't good, so, religion isn't good. Your attempts at show aren't good, but what you really need to do is obey. But the point of this ultimately isn't that David obeyed, it's that Jesus obeyed. And that Jesus did what David could not do. David is alluding back to Saul when he says, sacrifice and offering, you aren't pleased. 1 Samuel chapter 15, when Saul had disobeyed the command of the Lord, but he gave a big offering, the prophet told him, hey, I'm not pleased. God isn't pleased with your sacrifice. He wants your obedience. And what that is pointing to, and what Jesus is doing, is he's taking David's "I learned, and so I prioritize obedience to God over sacrifice," even though he was not obedient because of his sin. But Jesus takes this and says, but I have the body that ultimately pays. I did it ultimately on your behalf. What we need to get from this, and what leads us into the Passion Week narratives through this psalm, is that ultimately we do not live our lives to gain approval, but we live them from approval. Jesus has done for us what we cannot do. Therefore, we have a standing that we cannot earn. And that is what this psalm points to, that Jesus is the obedience. And so if we're trying to garner favor with God through our obedience, or we're saying, since I can't obey, I don't think there's any point, either one of those is an aberration to the gospel, which is you are so sinful that you need a Savior, but you're so loved that even in your sin, God sent someone on your behalf. He sent Jesus. So the message of this psalm is that ultimately Jesus is the greater David, and that is why you can have hope in the midst of your sinfulness, in the midst of your choices that are so counter to the very things of God.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.